see. Hopefully the connection is okay. I seem to be lagging a little bit. We're gonna go with it. Loading up the comment section now. Wait for people to join as I continue to talk like this. Retweet. Sometimes this is just so goofy. Okay. One minute and I will get started. Here we go. All right, everybody. I'm Lysowski, the Sabres beat writer for the Buffalo News. Always fun to hold one of these Facebook Lives. It's been a while, but you know what? Hockey's been a little dormant recently. We haven't had much to talk about. Now we do. So there's a lot to discuss with training camp starting on Friday. The season is only a few weeks away at this point. Well, almost less than that. On January 14th, Sabres open against the Washington Capitals. Bear with me as the comment section loads. Facebook Live, the new setup is not ideal, but we're going to make the most of it. So, again, I'm Lance Lysowski, Sabres beat writer for the Buffalo News. We finally had some news today. Tuesday, December 29th. Sorry about that. Ralph Krueger and Kevin Adams spoke to the media ahead of training camp. Not a ton of news. A lot of previewing, a lot of sort of summarizing what happened in the offseason, this team adding depth. We'll get to the details of that. I'd love to hear your questions in the comment section below. I'm Lance Lysowski, the Sabres beat writer for the Buffalo News. The one topic that really came up that I think that we should really start with that maybe goes beyond training camp is the new division that the Sabres will be playing in. 7 teams, 8 games against each of them. Boston, the New Jersey Devils, the New York Islanders, the New York Rangers, Pittsburgh Penguins, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Washington Capitals. So not a great field for the Sabres. You would think that their chances at the playoffs probably worsened based on that new division. The top 4 make the playoffs. Going to be really difficult to crack it with all that star power. The one aspect of the Sabres that Ralph Krueger believes would give them the opportunity to take that next step and snap the playoff drought would be depth, forward depth to be exact. This team signed Taylor Hall. They signed traded for Eric Stahl, signed Cody Eakin, and Ralph Krueger brought up 2 other names that seem to be penciled in for roles on this team, those being Tobias Reeder and Matt Irwin. Both guys are going to make the roster. The only question is, how often do they play? Are they going to be in the lineup every night? Those are guys that were brought in to help the penalty kill, which is an area the Sabres need to fix if they're going to snap that 9-year playoff drought. The one player that is not heading to training camp, and again, in case everybody missed it, again, I'm Lance Lysowski, the Sabres beat writer for the Buffalo News. Looking forward to answering your questions. Comment section below. Anybody who's joining me late, going to try to get to all those if we have any of them. I know that people aren't in the hockey mood. Everybody's in Bills mode, but hockey is starting. So the Sabres released their training camp roster, of course. In case you missed it, camp starts on Friday. That's their first on-ice workout. Thursday is report day. Not a whole lot of surprises with the camp roster. The prospects that people are looking to see aren't going to be there for the most part. Those being Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Oskari Laaksonen. They're both in Finland. Mate Pekar is playing in Czech Republic right now. And of course, the 2 most noteworthy of the bunch would be Dylan Cozens and Jack Quinn, who are both playing for Team Canada at the World Junior Championships. JJ Peterka and Ryan Johnson have yet to sign their entry-level contracts with the Sabres, so they will not be coming to camp. But the news of the day on Monday, Dylan Cozens and Jack Quinn will be coming to Buffalo whenever World Juniors ends. The tricky part about that, and I don't know, in case nobody read my coverage on the Buffalo News yet today, those guys are going to have to serve a 7-day quarantine. So if they make it to the gold medal game, which is January 5th, they're not going to be eligible to participate in any practice until January 12th, which is 2 days before the opener. So I'm of the opinion that Jack Quinn is going to stop in Buffalo, have a couple of practices, and he will probably be assigned to a team in Europe. That would be my guess. Maybe Switzerland. They need to find a place for Jack Quinn to play since the Ontario Hockey League is unlikely to have its season at least anytime soon. You need that kid to play. He can't be on the taxi squad. Now, Dylan Cousins, on the other hand, in my opinion, will start the year on the taxi squad, but he won't be on there for long. That'll just be to buy time for him to get some practices in, to learn the power play, to learn the 5-on-5 system. I'm sure the Sabres have gotten him up to speed on what they want to do at even strength. So Dylan Cousins is going to make this team. It's only a matter of when he's in the lineup, not a matter of if. So I don't expect him to be there opening night unless Canada gets upset in the tournament and doesn't make it to the gold medal game. When he does come, though, I think that he's going to be ready for a significant role. Probably in the top six. I would say that he's probably going to end up skating on a line with Eric Staal. Again, depth. If you start to think about the players the Sabres have on this team compared to last season, you start to piece together the lines in your head, and no matter what, you're going to put together a better lineup than this team had in previous seasons. And it's not even this isn't the ascent of prospects chosen by Jason Botterill. Now, in case you guys missed it, over Botterill's tenure, he always spoke about prospects, development in Rochester. Well, Kevin Adams and Ralph Kruger built this team with veterans. That's how he supplemented the core that was already in place. Taylor Hall is going to be on that first line with Jack Eichel and Sam Reiner. You got Eric Staal probably on that second line with Dylan Cousins and either Victor Olofsson or Jeff Skinner. I would probably say Jeff Skinner for now. And the third line is going to be, let's just say, Victor Olofsson, Cody Eakin, and hopefully Tage Thompson. I wouldn't want Tobias Reeder in this lineup every night or even, most nights. It's not my choice, though. So I don't know if he's going to score enough. I think that this team is going to need offense, especially playing in this division. The one thing on Kruger's side, now remember, the way that Kruger coaches, he wants his team to be very much responsible away from the puck, to emphasize defense, let the offense come out of being responsible away from the puck. And that could play well in this division. You have some teams that like to play run and gun and aren't really all that responsible defensively. Pittsburgh. Washington can be a little irresponsible. That's why they got a new head coach. That's why they fired their coach. That's why you're seeing the New York Rangers. They're not going to be very good on the back end. There's going to be some teams that I think they're going to be very susceptible to giving up goals. So if you can prevent goals, I think that could give this team a chance. But I think it starts with special teams and, of course, goaltending. Look across the division. The goaltending in this division, there's a lot of question marks. Aside from Tuukka Rask, you've got young guys with the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals. The same with the Pittsburgh Penguins, going with Tristan Jarry, with Matt Murray now gone. Carter Hart is on. There's without question Carter Hart's the best goalie in this division, but you got to get in the top four. That's all it is. So you need Linus Ullmark to take that next step to be good on the penalty kill as well as at 5-on-5. So this team on paper, I know that we want to think that it's the same team as in the past, but I think they have more depth. And yes, I've been bullish on their chances in the past, and I was very wrong. But I think that there were some really smart moves done this offseason by all involved. Eric Staal is the one that stands out to me. Yes, Taylor Hall is going to capture all the headlines, and I think he's going to be outstanding. But Eric Staal addresses a very significant need at second-line center. Now they don't have to worry about rushing Dylan Cousins to play that spot or sticking Casey Middlestad in a role that he's not ready for. Middlestad could play the wing. This gives Ralph Kruger options that he didn't have last year. He's not going to be relying on, these plugins. I mean, Jason Botterill tried with guys like Michael Frolik and Connor Sherry, but there's a reason both of those guys went unsigned until the final days of the offseason. So I'm going to start answering questions. Not a big crowd tonight because I know nobody's really in the mood for hockey. A lot of football, but hey, I guess I totally understand. We've got Sabres training camp starting on Friday, first on-ice workouts. The season is only a couple of weeks away, so hey, hopefully the excitement gets going. Austin, thanks for joining me, Austin. Always appreciate it. Can Lawrence Pilot be on this roster? Austin, no, Lawrence Pilot cannot be on this roster. He signed a 2-year contract in Russia. I'm sure that you are aware that getting out of those contracts in Russia is quite tricky. He is a unsigned restricted free agent. The Sabres hold his rights until he's 27 years old. Yes, I think that Lawrence Pilot will be part of the Sabres in the future. Whether that's next season, season after that, I think that Lawrence Pilot is going to find his way back to Buffalo. It all really depends, though, on how does Ralph Kruger think. What is Ralph Kruger's view of Lawrence Pilot? We never really heard Ralph Kruger provide much substance when it came to Pilot's development and Pilot's strengths or weaknesses because Lawrence Pilot never really got that opportunity in the NHL. And yes, I think that it's going to depend on what Ralph Kruger wants, not what Kevin Adams wants. Because if Lawrence Pilot comes back to the Sabres, it's going to be for a one-way contract. He's not going to settle for a two-way deal, as he shouldn't, because I think that he is going to have a very strong season in Russia. So now it's just a matter of when, not if, in my opinion, based on conversations I've had with people. And we will go to the next question. And Austin, what do you think of Casey Nelson opting out? Austin, I do not know the reason for the opt-out. I reached out to Casey Nelson's agent and never heard back. Not surprised, given the reason for my phone call, but Casey Nelson, think about where he was going, what his situation would have been with the Sabres. He would have been their eighth defenseman, maybe ninth, depending on how camp shakes out. So that, at best, puts him on the taxi squad. Now, on the taxi squad, that might sound like a cush gig. It's not going to be a very fun time for some guys. You're going to get bag skated, which, if nobody's familiar with that, you basically just get skated for an extra hour after practice every day. It's not a very fun job, and he wouldn't receive an NHL salary. He would receive his AHL salary. So if you're Casey Nelson, and I know that he's recently engaged or married, you never know what these guys are going through. So I'm not going to speculate. All I'm saying is that look at the entire picture. Casey Nelson, at best, taxi squad, and with maybe he opts in, if the Rochester Americans play. Remember, he's on a two-way contract. He was going to be with the Amherst anyway. No, I don't think that he was actually a realistic option for the Sabres. They're going to be fine. If you remember, they're going to have Matt Irwin as their seventh defenseman. Might even be Colin Miller. Who knows with the way that Ralph Kruger operates. And just his viewpoint of Matt Irwin, he continues to bring up Matt Irwin as if Matt Irwin is going to be in the lineup most nights. Interesting fact right there. Brandon Davidson was signed. That's an older guy who could be on the taxi squad. And you've got players like Will Borgen. Will Borgen's ready to take that step. He would be ahead of Casey Nelson. Matthias Samuelsson wouldn't be. I really like Casey Fitzgerald as long as his development is handled the right way. So the numbers weren't on Casey Nelson's side. Yes, if Rochester played, it would be an opportunity to really showcase his skills and eventually earn a chance at the NHL. But all things considered, I just don't think he was realistically in the Sabres' plans for this season. Thank you for the question, Austin. If you want to ask another one, there's no limit to this. Figure we could talk hockey as long as we have questions. Keep going. So always nice to hear from everybody. Garrett, do you think Kruger deploys Dahlin and Skinner properly this season? I feel like, and I asked Ralph Kruger about this on Tuesday morning when he spoke to the media. I asked, is Dahlin's role going to grow? And he said yes. He sees Dahlin's minutes growing. The one layer of this season we need to remember, though, is with the truncated schedule, I think you're going to see different guys get different amount of minutes every night. Game to game, I think it's going to fluctuate based on who needs more rest, what guy's dealing with injury. So I don't think it's going to be the consistent top pair that we saw in the past. I think as long as they find the right fit for Dahlin, that yes, I see him getting in the 20 to 23 minute range per night. I want to see his role at 5-on-5 grow. The one interesting fact that Kruger shared with the media, which I had also heard when I spoke to Steve Smith, is that Dahlin put on a lot of strength this offseason. He used the long offseason to get stronger, to get physically ready, to be more of an imposing presence. He's a big guy. Like, if he learns to throw his weight around, he's going to be, and he's got a temper. Like, he can throw body checks. He's not afraid to mix it up. So I think that it's going to be interesting to watch how Dahlin really evolves in this next season. Among all the players on this team, he's the one that I'm most interested in seeing at the start of camp, to see how that physical strength, how that maturation really plays itself out on the ice. Skinner, I'm not convinced that he's going to be used properly. Simply put, I just don't think Ralph Kruger is a fan of Jeff Skinner as a player. When asked about Jeff Skinner again on Tuesday, Ralph Krueger continued to talk about Jeff Skinner's play away from the puck. The problem here is that a coach with very little NHL experience is trying to tell an NHL player with a lot of experience what role he needs to have on this team and what he needs to do to be successful in this league. I completely disagree with it. Jeff Skinner is a fine enough defensive player. Put him with the right personnel. Put him with a center who's good defensively. Put him on the right line. I just don't understand why you don't want to put a 40 goal scorer out there as much as possible when it's not like he's having blown assignments. I think that Ralph Krueger wants him to be a more complete player, but I think Jeff Skinner is what he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that you can have an issue with the contract, how much the Sabres paid a guy who doesn't create his own scoring chances or doesn't create them at the rate that you would expect of a $10 million player. But you know what? That's not Jeff Skinner's fault. That's Jason Botterill's fault. That's the Pagula's fault. That's whoever cleared that contract and decided to put it on the books, right? Ralph Krueger needs to realize that he's stuck with Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner's not going anywhere. So what's the best way to utilize Jeff Skinner? Well, you can put him in a position to score more goals. I mean, your team didn't do a very good job of that last season. So I think right now, in my opinion, this is a coach who needs to wake up and see that he has a player with 40 goal potential. And now he has a center to play with Jeff Skinner, that being Eric Staal. So this isn't rocket science. It shouldn't be. This isn't that complicated. Jeff Skinner is a good enough player to aware that this is on Ralph Krueger to make it work. And you can try to make it, all about you or whatever, as a coach, but you're supposed to put your players in the best position to succeed. And I don't think Ralph Krueger is going to do that again with Jeff Skinner. So don't be surprised, in my opinion, if Jeff Skinner starts the season on the third line with Cody Eakin and who knows, at right wing, whether that be Reeder or Girgensons or whoever. I just think that would be my primary concern. If you look at all the forwards and potential usage and Ralph Krueger's comments, I just don't see anything changing on how he uses Jeff Skinner. Goaltending situation. Garrett, I do not think they're going to look to upgrade goaltending. I know that everybody on social media wants to talk about the Sabres making this trade or, signing this player. They don't have any cap space, and you can't just dump salary during the pandemic. No one is looking to take Colin Miller's $4 million contract when you made him healthy scratch 17 times last year. It's just not going to happen. Brandon Montour's the same way. Brandon Montour, by every statistical measure, analytics, production, was not good last year. No one's paying Brandon Montour for that contract. He's a player you might be able to move at the deadline, but you're not going to be able to stretch salary. You're just not. So the Sabres sort of painted themselves in this corner with their goaltending situation, and they're gambling on Linus Ullmark because Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is not going to be ready this year. Jonas Johansson is not a starting goalie in the NHL, so you're going to need Carter Hutton to have a bounce-back season. You're going to need Linus Ullmark to be a lot better than a 2-month goalie, which is all he was last year. I mean, Linus Ullmark was good for 2 months, then he got hurt. Before that, he wasn't all that great. There was 2 months of good production. You need to have that and sustain it for the entire season. He needs to be able to really handle the physical grind of playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. The video might not be working anymore. Is it? Yep, it's not working. Is it working? Sorry, we're having trouble playing the video. I do not know if this is working. Can anybody tell me if this is still working? Anybody? Comment section, please. I'm having a technical problem in this. Yeah. It ended. So. Jeez. I think it's done. Is it done? Can anybody hear me? Anybody in the comment section? You let me know if the video was working. Okay, Garrett, thank you. I appreciate it. For some reason, my video isn't working. Appreciate it, guys. Sorry about the delay. Yeah, my video went out on my end, so I wasn't sure if it was working. Let's keep rolling. Appreciate the questions. Goaltending situation, I don't see them upgrading. I think Linus Allmark just needs to sustain his production for the entire year. It's a big year for Allmark. If this doesn't work out, Allmark's bad. What are they going to do then? He's an unrestricted free agent. Going and getting a goalie in unrestricted free agency would make no sense with Luukkonen, on the way, or at least a year or so away. So goaltending is going to be a very interesting storyline, not only short term but long term for this team. I'm going to keep moving along. Thank you guys for your patience. I'm sorry that the video sort of cut out and I was just staring at my laptop, completely clueless on what I was doing. Jody, thanks a lot. Good to see you. Thanks for participating. Is it just me or do others feel like we've been wasting the 1 year we have with Hollandstall with how the format is? It's tough, Jody. It's not an ideal situation for this team. All involved have to realize that. But I will say, I'll go back to my comment about the division opponents previously. There's a lot of uncertainty with goaltending with some of these teams. Washington is one of them. The New York Rangers, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm not sold on Tristan Jarry quite yet. You got to do a little bit longer than that for me to really believe you're a number one goalie. Who knows what Tuukka Rask is going to do? The Bruins, they're not as good on the back end. They're still waiting on Chara. There's some question marks there. There's question marks with a lot of these teams. I don't know if the Capitals have it in goal. They made some signings on defense with Justin Schultz. Is that going to work out? Their bottom six is okay. It's just, I don't know how much firepower they're going to have. New coach, short camp. How's the new coach adjust with a short camp? So there's a window of opportunity here. I think the Islanders are the class of the division, in my opinion, at least with just the coach that they have, the system that they play. As long as Barzal, signs his contract, they get everybody in camp. I think it's a really good team. So I don't think it's a lost cause. I think that you need people to be healthy. You need Jeff Skinner to return to form. You need Rasmus Dahlin to take that next step. I think Dahlin is really a big key here. And Ralph Krueger said it on Tuesday that if they want to achieve their goals this season, Dahlin needs to, and it's putting a lot of pressure on the kid, but Dahlin needs to be everything that they need him to be. He needs to be the top guy. He needs to produce offensively at 5-on-5 the way that we've seen him do on the power play. I think he's more than capable of it. I think the one thing that he needs to do is hone his shot. I think with the puck and without the puck, we've seen really big strides. He needs to get the puck on net. It adds a different layer to this offense in terms of creating scoring chances. He needs to have, I'm sorry to quote Phil Housley here, a shot mentality. I don't think it's a lost cause, Jody. You know what? If this doesn't work out, and I don't even want to go there, to get all negative with you guys, but at the trade deadline, this team is really positioned to acquire some really, really good assets in terms of draft picks and prospects. If they do have to move Hall, Stahl, Montour, Allmark, they got a lot of expiring contracts. Jake McCabe. So that's another situation to monitor. Trade deadline's in April 12th. This team needs to start fast. The schedule is going to be really difficult. This is going to be a really big test. But adding veteran leadership was very important to get this team to the next step. Garrett, this is a really good question. I'm glad you brought this up. In case anybody missed it, the Sabres are bringing in Riley Sheahan on a PTO. So basically, he can earn a contract if he plays well in camp. This is a really smart move. He's a guy who can kill penalties, good in the face-off circle, and he might bring more, I'm going to say, more of a finesse. He can maybe bring more offense than Curtis Lazar, right? I don't know if Curtis Lazar, speed-wise, is going to be able to be much of a threat with the puck. I think Curtis Lazar, he's smart without the puck. He's good in the face-off circle, but you needed another option there because I don't think Casey Middlestad's going to play center for this team. I don't think Dylan Cousins is going to play center for this team, unless there are injuries, of course. But you needed some insurance down the middle. Sheahan can be on the taxi squad. Garrett, I don't think at first Sheahan will be there, but I think as long as he performs well in camp, he's going to at least make the taxi squad, and he's going to be in the lineup some nights. If I'm not mistaken, he's worked out at Lecon Harbor Center with some of the Academy of Hockey guys in past summers. Not this summer, of course, with the border being closed, but he's a St. Catharines guy. This makes a heck of a lot of sense for him. He's actually a player that I had, sort of up my eye on this offseason as a potential fit for the Sabres. It makes a lot of sense. So let's go on to the next question. How will Ralph Krueger talk to the media after practicing games? Dave, behind the scenes question. I appreciate this. Everything's going to be on Zoom, Dave. Us reporters, the select group of us or whatnot, are going to be at practices, at games, socially distant, of course, even from each other with masks on, even when we're sitting at our laptops writing. It's going to be a pretty interesting experience. All availabilities, Ralph Krueger, the players, everything is going to be done over Zoom, which is I'm not going to begin, go into all the challenges that presents for the media because, you guys don't care about that. And, it's fine. Oh, it is what it is. We're going to make the most of it. It's a strange year. As you've seen, reporters throughout the pandemic have found a way to write really compelling stories. It's really nice that we're able to be in the building for practice so we can report online, the lines, any sort of observations. It's so key for us to be able to do our jobs the right way, and very grateful the NHL's accommodating in that sense. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, everything on Zoom. So it was actually pretty funny today asking Ralph Kruger a question. I lost my train of thought. I admitted it. It's fine. I lost my train of thought waiting for my turn. And yeah, I guess even he said we're going to have to get used to it. So it's part of the process. Will, yeah, I know, Will. I know your division. Your question was answered. So I do appreciate you participating. So yeah, if you have another question, go ahead for it. You have one. Great. Will, R2 Ruotsalainen needs to make this team or be on the taxi squad. More of an observation, Will, of course, and I agree with you. I think that he's going to be on the taxi squad. I don't think he's making the team just based on how this roster is constructed, and I know the way that Ralph Kruger likes his lines to be constructed. I think R2 is going to be on the taxi squad until we get clarity on the American Hockey League season. I am curious if they can loan him back to Europe, if possible. I don't see that happening. I think that R2 is going to learn the North American game on the taxi squad. I think he'll play some nights. I think you're going to see this lineup change game to game. Guys are going to be going in and out. We know that Ralph Kruger, isn't afraid to sit anybody who isn't performing well. And there are players in this team, we're penciling in Tage Thompson, but if he has a bad night, he's going to be in the press box or wherever they're putting players who are scratch. I'm going to say the same thing for a few different guys. Dylan Cousins, I think, will get some nights off this season once he makes the NHL roster. So it's another layer to it. I think R2 practicing with the NHL team will bring value. I actually spoke to Brian Burke yesterday morning about a few different topics. You'll see his name in one of my stories here coming soon, but I just asked him about the development component of this, and he said, yeah, I mean, teams, players, even just practicing and skating with the NHL guys and just being out there for even scrimmages or skill work, it's invaluable. So R2's going to make the team. Big storyline to watch here is how he adjusts to playing the wing because he's not playing center. That's another reason why they signed Riley Sheahan. R2's not a center. He's just not at the NHL, which is fine. I still think he can be a very effective, probably bottom six player, but there's value in that. Denver, Ryan Johnson should make the Sabres at some point. He's not flashy. He does all things right. Thank you, Denver, for bringing this up. Ryan Johnson is, for whatever reason, probably because of the O'Reilly trade, has been criticized nonstop by, I just see it on social media, right? People want him to be this flashy player that scores goals. The thing is, though, every player's development is different. Every player is different. You have to understand their background. You have to watch their games. You can't just watch one short tournament or one clip and think that you know everything about the player. Ryan Johnson came in. He was very young when he was drafted. No, he didn't put up a ton of points previously before he was drafted, but he was very responsible without the puck. Very smart player. You can't teach that. You can't teach instincts. His dad played in the NHL. This is a very smart kid. He knows how to play the game the right way. He knows not to take too significant of mistakes. It's really, really smart the way that he's developed his game. He made sure that he was really responsible away from the puck and with the puck in terms of passing, knowing what lanes, how to find those open lanes. Now you're starting to see him unlock that offensive potential, the vision in the offensive zone. The shot is going to be the next piece. I'm not concerned about that. That's going to come, but watch him with the puck. It's really, really impressive the way that he's able to find lanes and find the open man and create scoring chances for his team. That's what you want out of a defenseman. The points are going to come as his role grows at the University of Minnesota, as his role grows, throughout his career. A really, really exciting prospect who I think is going to be rising up some of these prospect rankings that you're seeing, right? I think it was an easy guy to overlook because a lot of people look at the stat line, they look at the production. And the USHL, which is where he played before Minnesota, is a point league, right? It's kind of easier to score goals and get points, but you also have to realize that when you're evaluating defensemen, it's all about who they're playing with, what their system is that they're playing in. What are they doing away from the puck? Are they still making plays? Are they creating scoring chances? It's not just shots on goal and points. As much as people want to simplify the game, it's not that simple. So keep an eye on him. He's going to be a really fun player to watch develop. I think the Sabres are really wise in the track that they're putting him on. They're going to be very patient with him, and there's no reason to rush him. You look at the defenseman in the organization. Don't rush to sign him into his entry level deal. I want him at Minnesota for at least another full season after this one, and then he'll be physically ready for the American Hockey League or maybe the NHL at that point. But I think that it was a really solid draft pick when you evaluate the Sabres' needs. And puck moving defensemen are really difficult to find, especially if you can get them on an entry level deal for 3 years and they're productive. And I still think that, yeah, you can look at Arthur Kaliev and the other guys the Sabres could have picked, but that's not how I evaluate drafts. It just isn't how I evaluate prospects. He's a really smart player, and really smart question, Denver. I appreciated that one. Um, okay, Will. Yeah, no, Will. I understand where you're coming from. Anybody doesn't see Will's comment, he's just saying that it shouldn't be about selling at the deadline. Uh, is that I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying. Well, that shouldn't be the mentality, and it's not. I'm just saying from another perspective that if things don't go well, if things don't go well, there's going to be a lot that doesn't go well, and we won't get into that. But I will say I think it was smart the way that the Sabres didn't commit, term to some of these guys. You don't want to. I think that 1 year was perfect for Taylor Hall to see if it's a right fit. I think that it was perfect to sign Cody Eakin for 2 years. I don't like the average annual value, but maybe he goes to Seattle in the expansion draft. I'm sure the Sabres are hopeful that he gets picked. Maybe hey, if it works out, he scores 20 goals, great. I'm not bullish on him as a player. I don't think it was a smart signing. I think that they could have done a heck of a lot better, particularly by bringing back Johan Larsson, but there's a reason why I don't make those decisions. Thanks, Will. I appreciate it. Any other questions? I'm going to wrap it up here pretty soon. I really appreciate the patience, especially when my video feed, well, it's still not working. But thank you guys for everything. Jody, do you think they will hire an assistant GM soon? Jody, I don't see that happening this season, especially if Rochester does not play. I'll tell you what, there are at least two people working behind the scenes who don't have a GM title that are very, very involved in how this organization is being run and just being a resource to Kevin Adams. Those two are Mark Jakubowski, longtime Sabres employee, salary cap guy, knows the CBA very well. Mark has been the one who's been calling agents, negotiating contracts is his thing. So I think that a lot of the numbers, the nuances of contract negotiation, Mark Jakubowski has been the one handling. Charlie Mendelow is the guy who was added to the organization, worked at the Ecom Harbor Center. He's more of, I think, a go-between the development guys and Kevin Adams. At least that's the way that Adams sort of described it on Tuesday. Matt Ellis is really involved. I think that Kevin Adams values Ellis's perspective. And let's face it, Ralph Kruger is basically an assistant general manager. Ralph Kruger had a very, very significant influence on this roster. He's the one who wanted Cody Eakin. He's the one who wanted Taylor Hall. He's the one who wanted Tobias Reeder. Yeah, I know that for a fact. He's the one who wanted Cody Eakin. That was a Ralph Kruger pickup. Tobias Reeder. So that's the way they're going right now. They will have to hire an assistant general manager. But at the moment, with revenues being what they are, honestly, I would rather this team pour any sort of financial means into player salaries and support staff that are going to have a direct impact on this season as opposed to somebody who's not going to really do much this year. The roster is in place now. There's no rush to hire somebody good. Take your time. Now, if they haven't hired anybody a year from now and we're in the 2021-22 season, yes, I will be the first one to say that is ridiculous and they need to hire somebody. But right now, I think it's fine, the model that they're working under. So, Dave, are all the players in town? Yes, Dave. All the ones who all the quarantines need to be a week before players report, so they have to be tested 3 times in that week. All those tests need to be negative. We'll see if everybody is there on day one. It's going to be very interesting, as we've seen with the NFL and other sports, how this is all going to work out with people missing. It's not going to be reported in training camp if a guy has COVID. It's just going to be league-wide numbers. We won't know until the actual season starts who has COVID, who's tested positive, and that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting. I'm sure that Riley Sheahan's in town now. They wouldn't have started that PTO if he wasn't going to be there at the start of camp. So we'll see. It's going to be really fascinating. The practices early in camp are going to be two separate groups. There's going to be two scrimmages. The second scrimmage on the 9th is the one that the Sabres are hoping that Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn are able to participate in. That's very wishful thinking, in my opinion, but hey, it's a pretty solid plan. And expect cuts to come on the 10th. January 10th is when the Sabres will trim their roster. I know that because they are down to one practice time after that, those final few days. Ralph Kruger wants his team and taxi squad decided by then. So very big week and a half coming up in terms of who's going to be making the roster. Who's going to be, I think competition in terms of top six, bottom six, that's going to continue into the season. So I don't think we're going to have roles completely settled at the end of camp. Will, how you feeling about Jack Quinn? I really like Jack Quinn. This is another player who I think the fan base got infatuated with Marco Rossi and some of the other names at the top of the draft. And we saw this last year with Cole Caulfield, if you all remember that. Cole Caulfield's that guy that Sabres fans really wanted. Trevor Zegras was another one. They were flashy. Fans really loved watching them in games. And Dylan Cousins, right now, is a better prospect than Trevor Zegras. Dylan Cousins is a better prospect than Cole Caulfield. It just development is very strange. It's very tough. You need to talk to people. You need to really do your research to peel back the layers and learn more about a player. When I peeled back the layers and I spoke to people close to Jack Quinn, when I spoke to scouts, the more I really like him as a player and the development track he's on and the potential to become not only a goal scorer. He's not a one-trick player. This is a guy who can kill penalties, and I love the mentality. I love the mindset that he has. I love the work ethic. I really enjoy bringing players into the fold who have a chip on their shoulder. You can't really replace what that can do for a guy. The story that Jack Quinn had. And he made that Team Canada roster after everybody said he wouldn't. And you know what? He's playing really well. There's a game going on right now, and Jack Quinn's playing really well. Looking forward to watching the replay. I can't watch it right now because I'm talking to everybody here. But all matters considered, everything I'm seeing on social media, he's been outstanding. I love his play away from the puck. He's responsible. He needs to get bigger physically, which will just come with time. He's a player that everybody's going to want to rush him, especially if he's not able to return to the OHL this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. He might have to go to Europe. If he goes to Europe, the numbers might not be as high. The production might not be what everybody wants. But be patient. Just talking to people around him, talking to coaches, talking to scouts, he was the right pick in my opinion with what the Sabres want, what the Sabres need. And I know you don't always pick based on need, but when I watch Marco Rossi, I see a lot of Casey Middlestad 2017. That's just my opinion. I think he's a playmaker. I think he's a tremendous skater. And he's more physically mature than Middlestad was at that time. But I don't know. I think with what the Sabres have and where they were at, I really like the pick of Jack Quinn. I don't think you can go wrong with either player. It's going to be sort of, probably frustrating for all involved for those two players to be compared to each other in the years to come. Next question. I'm going to finish up with these last few. Okay, where are we at? Garrett, if this year hypothetically goes wrong, does Eichel ask for out? I'm optimistic with the upgrades, but this division is rough. I don't think that Jack Eichel is going to evaluate his place in the organization based on 1 year, especially with all the circumstances. Who knows what happens? If they completely tank and there's mismanagement at every level of the organization, maybe. I'm not going to speculate on what Jack may or may not do. I can tell you that he loves playing for Ralph Kruger. I can tell you that he's hopeful that the moves that the management, hockey ops did in the offseason will pay dividends. But I think Jack is tired of the talk. He's tired of talking about how this upgrade's going to do this and how they're ready to take the next step. He's just trying to put his energy onto the ice and try to produce. That's the type of guy he is. I'm sure he's not looking forward to speaking to the media on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's just one of those things, but I wouldn't worry about that, Garrett. I really wouldn't. I think that Jack sees the players around him. He sees Sam Reinhart. He sees Victor Olsen. He sees Rasmus Dahlin and a lot of what this organization has going for it. And any team that trades for Jack Eichel is going to have to give up a big chunk of your core, and you're going to depleting your roster by doing it. I think his best chance for success at this point in time might be in Buffalo, unless there's a team that can sort of pull it off a draft picks, prospects, who knows. But I'm not going to speculate. We'll see what happens, Garrett. All right, last few. Denver, do you think Jack Quinn will make the team out of training camp? I don't, Denver. I think the timing of his arrival would make that extremely difficult. I think his physical development right now is not ready for the NHL, and that's totally fine. There's no reason to rush that player. I would send him to Europe if the OHL isn't going, which it obviously isn't at this point in time or anytime soon. So I'd send him to Switzerland if you can. I'd send him to Germany if that's an option. I know that Switzerland, those teams in Switzerland are saving money and export spots. Every team in Switzerland gets 8 export spots. Most of those teams are keeping those open for NHL prospects. We know that Ralph Kruger has connections in Switzerland. So that is one potential landing spot for not only Jack Quinn, but a few other Sabres prospects. That's just something to keep an eye on. Last question. Thank you for everybody for your patience, your participation. Always appreciated. Will, jokingly, but what sponsor do you want on our helmets? Is that decided? Are you asking what my joke answer is or what my actual answer is? Well, I'm just going to answer. It'll end up being KeyBank, in my opinion, but they can do different sponsors for home and road. They're not really making any money on these agreements. They're to make their sponsors whole for the fact that there aren't fans in the building. So, if you're not having fans in the building, there are fewer people seeing KeyBank advertisements in the arena. So it could be that. There's a lot of different options. I mean, pizza logs would be fun. That would be a fun one. Veteran owned and operated. So that would be a cool one for like practice helmets or something. We'll see what they do with it. I think that, you know what, the NHL, and I've said this in a roundtable I wrote with Mike Harrington in the past, that they need to explore every possible revenue stream, not only this season, but in the future, whether that's different streaming packages or remove the blackout restrictions on the streaming packages. Do whatever you can to make money in these times. It's not going to be only this year. The financial ramifications of this pandemic are going to stretch for years to come. So, Will, jokingly, I don't know, Will. Lloyd would be cool. Pick any local business. I would love to see it on there. I would go local with it, and it'll end up being KeyBank, though, I'm sure. So that's it for me, everybody. I'm Lance Lysowski, the Sabres beater for the Buffalo News. Sorry again for my video feed dropping out. I've been having to switch between my phone and this to monitor the comments. I appreciate